Hey Joe, how you
Uh,
doing?
Hey, I'm good, man. How are you?
Great, thanks for seeing me. I know it's early morning for you.
Oh, no, it's good. Where are you located?
So I'm in a small city called Brighton in England, on the
Okay.
south coast. Yeah, it's
Okay.
about an hour from London.
Yeah, I'm used to getting up early, so this is right up my wheelhouse. So I'm good.
Good
I've
to
I,
hear.
I've moved on from coffee to tomato juice, so I'm ready to roll.
Fantastic. That's great.
Well, it's great to meet you, man. And I want to begin our conversation with the last 3.5 years or so living through COVID. How did you
Okay.
get through that time period, and how did it change you in the way that you do things?
Wow, that's a very yeah, interesting question. Yeah, so well, obviously, first of all, it was a shock, right?
Yeah.
You're just going about your business. I'm trying to run my private practice. I'm also a musician, so I'm in bands, practicing martial arts, all this stuff. And then it's like, right, there's things happening, and some friends of mine seem to be expecting it before I was, and so that I was like, really, are you sure? And then yeah, it's all sort of hitting the news and all that, and yeah, so I think I was kind of in like in a dream state, I think, and I think a lot of people have said this to me as well. Like, it was like a weird kind of dream for a couple of weeks, like waking up going, oh, that thing, that thing's going on,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, and then moving from practicing, seeing my clients face to face, having to sort of let go of the office spaces I was renting in London and down here in the south, um, and moving to online. So quickly sort of getting the feel that well, if you want to keep your business going, this is the way to go. And I'm quite lucky that working as a talking therapist, it's something that I was doing a bit of, but people weren't really that keen on it. I think probably for obvious reasons, and I wasn't that keen on it either.
Yeah.
But then quickly kind of realized actually it's a bit like you can have good telephone conversations, you can have bad telephone conversations, you can have good face-to-face conversations, you can have bad face-to-face conversations. So I started to view it like that, and I updated all my profiles and my website and everything, and yeah, I just kind of kept things going, and it also gave me time. I think because I was seeing less people initially, because people weren't, at least through self-funded work, people kind of therapy perhaps wasn't as much of a priority as getting food and paying your rent and mortgage and stuff like that. So I had a bit more time to kind of do writing. So I started getting into writing courses, and ebooks was became a big thing. Um, and yeah, kind of helped through my own kind of struggles. I think through how do I take care of myself now? I can't go to band practice. I can't go and practice karate. I can't go to a coffee shop and a pub. So it's like, well, how do you get those needs met? How do you sort of get through the day and feel like today had some meaning in it, some value? So that
Yeah.
became really important, right? And started to make that my thing and talk to people about it and make it. I realized it was kind of there anyway. Like a lot of people, aren't taking care of themselves as well as they could be, and it just kind of made it magnified, like
Yeah.
how we need to do that. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah. I think everything that existed before just got magnified. It just, the
exactly.
way that you approach life was only going to get more intense based on what we were living through. But,
Yeah.
I know that with my son, he's on the spectrum, that
Hmm.
it was relieving to have the telehealth because it was always this matter of having to get in the car, do the drive.
Yes.
I would be there, he wouldn't be there that long. So this way, it just made it that much easier. Have you felt
Mm.
like you've embraced this new reality?
Yeah. I think now I'm doing like 50-50 pretty much. So half my clients see me online, and even the ones I see face to face, often this was always a thing where they couldn't make a session because of work or family, like you say, they've got to pick up their kids or something. So it kind of, makes it easier to kind of at least get some therapeutic work done. And yeah, and I think it's hard for people to completely miss a meeting altogether now, because if somebody says I can't make Tuesday because of work or something, I immediately say, right, I've got this Zoom meeting. We could do 11 on Wednesday or 12 on Thursday. Boom, boom, and it's harder for them to kind of not make it. And in my profession, it's something people, I don't think intentionally, but unconsciously, it's a bit like the gym. Sometimes it's like, I just don't feel like going this evening. I'm a bit tired. And then next week it's like, yeah, I've got to do this instead now. And then it gradually becomes more of a habit not to go than actually to engage, right?
Yeah.
So, and even with music, actually, funnily enough, we started there are I'm sure you're aware, platforms where you can actually have a band practice
Yeah.
online, right?
Yeah.
So we started doing band practicing online, which was fantastic,
Yeah.
and really enjoyed that. It was much better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, you get the fix in for sure. So let's get to the essence, the heart and soul of what you do for a living. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career
Okay.
day. One of the
Okay.
kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Right. So yeah, I to third graders, I would say I help people to be happier. Right. I
Yeah.
help people to have happier lives, more enjoyment, more fun, and to hopefully deal with their problems better, and to just get out and live life in a much more meaningful way.
So you're real. So when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream?
So third grade is what is that? Is that 8 years old, 9 years old?
Probably, yeah, around probably like 8 to 10.
8 to 10. So 8 to 10, I was really getting into music. So I loved Michael Jackson and Madonna and Phil Collins, and I just wanted to be a singer and kind of a guitar and keyboard player at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of athletics. I was really into sort of track and field running as well, but music was huge for me, sort of around that age.
So you get to live
Yeah.
that dream and it's fun because you're really using the right and left side of your brain. I mean, you're really I mean, is it kind of a siesta when you get the chance to play music because it gets heavy with, the day job? Does it kind of balance
Yeah,
itself out?
it's part of my therapy, I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have different kinds of music that I do. I have experimental music projects I work with where it's quite kind of free, and I wouldn't say I'm a jazz musician by any stretch, but it's certainly I bring that in, kind of just like letting it go and just like letting music speak, I would
Yeah.
say. And then I do kind of composition stuff like by myself, which is either electronic or I play acoustic bass guitar. I've got a 6 string acoustic bass guitar. So I write, and it's got nylon strings. So it has a kind of flamenco sound. So I've written songs and in fact, I wrote an album's worth of songs during lockdown on that instrument alone. And yeah, it's very interesting and it's quite difficult to play. It's heavy strings, big neck. So I can't play it all the time, but that's really got its own voice, I would say. And then I do kind of band stuff, rock, um, reggae, funk, blues, everything really. um,
So you mentioned Michael Jackson. When I was a kid, my dad was a car salesman and he won tickets when the Jackson 5 got together and they went to Arrowhead Stadium here.
uh-huh.
And man, when that hit, he had that glove and it came up and the sequins just went all over the everybody. It was like a Beatles concert.
Yeah,
People were
yeah, yeah.
fainting. What was your
Amazing.
first concert? What was the one that really made you think,
Oh
man, this
wow.
is spectacular?
Well, my dad, I discovered Def Leppard on a coach to a amusement park one day when I was probably about 11 years old. And I fell in love with the album Hysteria, went out and bought it and played it back to back all the time. My dad took me to see Def Leppard at Wembley Arena. I think I would have been 13, 12 or 13. And, it just absolutely blew me away seeing those five guys absolutely rock it for like 2 hours with all those lasers. And it's so futuristic at the time. And it was just, I was like, wow, and I was just like, I want to do that. I want to be on a stage like that one day. I had friends that saw Michael Jackson at Wembley Stadium, even bigger,
Wow.
the football stadium.
Yeah.
I think he did about a month of dates there. I'm pretty
Wow.
sure people were going every day for a couple of weeks at least.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, but I didn't get the chance to go to that, unfortunately. So I
Yeah.
never saw Michael Jackson. Unfortunately, I did see Prince though. That was incredible.
Oh yeah, that's definitely something right there. Prince came to
Mm,
Kansas City and played at one of our arenas in the 80s and went up to a
mm,
local club and
mm-hmm.
they closed the doors and sold tickets to everybody that just happened to be there and he played a private show and just rocked it
Wow,
out. So, it was
incredible
cool.
guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I
Um
love Prince. Yeah.
yeah, he's wonderful. So, in your life, who's been kind of an inspiration or a hero for you?
So, so I would say, yeah. I mean, obviously, like singers. I mean, when I was growing up, it was people like Axl Rose and John Bon Jovi, um, guitarists like Steve Vai. Um, More recently, I see bass players. So I got really into playing bass from the age of about 20 onwards, when I sort of, yeah, kind of started to find that, just, singing alone, or, I think I didn't, without having the right kind of coach or the right kind of manager, like kind of just doing that, I found really, really difficult. So I think becoming a sort of bass player and a producer, so I got really into playing bass and producing on in Logic and stuff like that. So yeah, people like Victor Wooten, people like Stanley Clark, Mark King from Level 42, Billy Sheehan. So I sort of really started studying these kind of virtuoso bass players, really, and kind of trying to do my own thing with it, and realizing that you could write songs with the bass guitar, that people wouldn't really think of it like that, but actually there are some really beautiful pieces of music that,
Yeah.
Jaco Pastorius, of course, like
Yeah.
huge fan. And then later I'd say self-development people like Wayne Dyer, Neil Donald Walsh. I read all those guys' books, and yeah, Doreen Virtue's more kind of spiritual stuff. So I got really into kind of psychology and spirituality as kind of like my sort of bridge between, sort of, the physical reality, and the sort of the more esoteric, I suppose,
Yeah,
worlds. Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
Is it, and then somebody's still alive?
It could be
Or
anybody. We could open the door up.
wow, wow. Who would I want to meet right now if I could meet anybody? I mean, maybe like Gandhi would be
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
you
for
know,
sure.
just somebody like who's just so humble and just so fearless and courageous. Um, Maybe like Muji, like he's still alive, and like really, really sort of great soul. I'd love to have met Jaco Pastorius. I'd
Yeah,
love to have met somebody like that. Um, Joni Mitchell's amazing. It's hard to say one person, isn't it?
yeah,
Because it's
right.
just, but there's a selection for you.
You could have a dinner table full of people for sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
So
yeah,
let me ask you
yeah.
this. In your line of work, helping
Mm.
people in the therapeutic arts, what is the motivator for you every day? What gets you out of bed? What gets you to want to help people and accomplish what you want to get done?
Yeah, well, it's just such a great feeling, kind of like seeing somebody's life change just a little bit each time you see them. After working with them from day one to day 12 or 50, whatever, 100, sometimes more. It's just nothing. It's just nothing like it. I mean, it's great being on stage. I love performing, and I love recording music, and love sports and everything else. And but that sort of stuff is, it's kind of all generally. I mean, okay, people, of course, you do play music for other people, but you play it for yourself first, really, because unless you're just doing it to get paid, which I've always had a bit of a difficult relationship with that, and I get why people do it, and I respect it, but it's something I've chosen not to do in my recent years. But I think ultimately, and I think most people would agree that you play music firstly for yourself, and you want to feel like you're you're loving the music you're playing, and that you want others to pick up on that and see it and feel it with you. And if they don't, it's unfortunate, but firstly it's got to be with you. So when I'm working with clients, it's about them. It's about a lot. I mean, I work with a lot of my passion is helping creative professionals. So um, designers, dancers, singers, actors, to take their thing, their art to the next level, and to overcome their stumbling blocks, overcome their self-sabotaging traits, the stuff that gets in the way of us being successful, the doubting, the putting ourselves down, or listening to the wrong kinds of people. And it's just such a wonderful feeling to see somebody go from all that stuckness and frustration to tell me, you know what, Paul, and often it's quite small. It's people that they're not going to, play at like a great jazz cafe or somewhere like that. But what they're saying is that they often, it's like, yeah, I went to a yoga class for the first time in years, or I went to a jam night and I haven't done that in years. I haven't picked, or just picking up a guitar, or practicing singing again. It's like, wow, you sang again. What was that like? I was like, oh, it was good. It felt good. I wondered why I haven't done it for so long, And it's like it just brings a tear to my eye to kind of see that that that's happened for them, and that somehow I've been part of that. It's just great. So yeah, I love doing that with people.
So let's go back to the beginnings of your life. How did you, where were you born and raised, and how were these seeds put into you to want to be, you know, in helping people through therapy and even a
Yeah.
musician?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in on the southeast coast of England in a place called Essex, which is a small county, and as I say, from a young age, I was really, really, really interested in music, and was always listening to music and studying music and learning about rock stars and all kinds of musicians. Really, when I left school at 16 with not much really, I kind of uh, had a lot going on in my sort of family life, and I didn't really make the most of school, if I'm honest. And but I was quite good at playing the guitar and singing, so got a rock band together, or three, and I was only 16, 17 years old, and I got to perform with the original singer of Iron Maiden, and um, and a UK band you may have heard of called Dogs to More, who were kind of a bit like the Cure, like a goth rock band, and
Yeah.
some bands from the States. There was a guy called Mike Tramp from White Lion. So all these kind of like sort of they're not the most famous, most successful kind of, but they're professional musicians, and I was like kind of getting to hang out in these pubs. I wasn't even old enough to be in them, and sometimes we'd fall asleep on the sofas in these places, and with the people that ran the place and some of the artists, and so I got to see some of the darker side of rock and roll, which is kind of um, not so glamorous, let's say, and in a sense, it kind of showed me the reality of, what do you want your life to be like? So I kind of, my parents were like, well, I think, maybe, you've kind of had a good crack at this. And the music scene was changing around sort of 92, 93, and rock was, kind of turning into grunge. And I didn't really have the experience to transcend that. So I sort of just dropped guitar and singing. I just got really into electronic music and just going to kind of raves and partying and things like that. And then just worked in hospitality and hair and beauty industry for a while, and different things really. But it was never really contented or happy. They were just kind of like a means to an end. So I went through a lot of my life sort of in my 20s, kind of just feeling like, what am I doing? I'm just doing things to make money, right? And then I discovered self-development and meditation, and started doing some workshops and reading kind of self-development books. And then it just kind of came to me one day to kind of do something either kind of social work related, or psychotherapy and counseling. And within a few months, I was on a diploma course, and within a few years, I was working in the National Health Service. And yeah, it's kind of starting to make some money out of helping people, which was really cool. So yeah, and but I kind of kept music up the whole time, and I sort of brought other things in, like martial arts in and out over the years, and yoga and things like that. And yeah, so I sort of realized you kind of need a variety of things. And I strongly believe that a lot of people like Janis Joplin and Jaco Pastorius and Jimi Hendrix, I think they'd all still be alive today, or at least would have lived a lot longer, if they had been more balanced, right? I think just having music, it's a wonderful thing, but if you just rely on music to bring you everything, it's a bit like expecting your wife or husband to provide everything for you all the time and make you happy all the time. It's not fair, and it's not realistic. You need a variety of positive inputs and outputs to make you a whole human being, and music's one of those things.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you were to have a dream tonight and you ran into a much younger version of yourself, say in your 20s, and you could give
Mm-hmm.
that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life, what would you
Mm-hmm.
tell your young version?
Wow, that's a really great question. I've thought similar questions at times. So what it would be is um, so let's say I'm like leaving school at 16. It's like, go and finish that music college course, even though it's not the best course. Get a grade in it, a decent grade, pass, right? Go and do a much better music course, in probably London or in the States or somewhere. Um, and actually do that, because what that's going to do is that's going to give you the foundations of theory and the music business to have the confidence to really stick it out and stick through the tough times and not get distracted, and to really be a musician and an artist, and sure, do some other things to get by if you need, and that's fine, but basically, um, put 100% into it. And when somebody says something bad about you, or puts you off, or something doesn't go, or your bandmates are acting like losers or whatever, just forget it, move on. Like, don't be in love with your band so much that when it goes wrong you feel like you've broken up with the love of your life. Like, bands will come and go, musicians will come and go. Focus on your singing, your playing, your theory, your writing, your producing. So be an all-rounder. Don't just think, I'm going to be on stage like Michael Jackson. That may happen, but have all these other things, so you can go, look, I can produce, I can write, I can arrange, I can remix. Any of these things are also really, really useful. So don't fall in love with any one thing, I think, is probably the number one thing.
So of all of the things that you've done so far in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Mm. Um, Being a dad is really important, being a parent, and sort of trying to teach him and give him opportunities I didn't have. They're not necessarily about wealth or anything like that, but more about having perhaps more awareness than perhaps people did 20, 30 years ago, around how the world works, and how who you want to be in the world. So that's been amazing and is amazing. I'd say I'm, yeah, really proud of, overcoming challenges like, family, complexity, and non-linear nuclear family disruptions and things like that. I think they make you stronger, in the long run. And being able to sort of bring sort of music and creativity into my professional work with helping people has been challenging, but also really rewarding.
So everyone out there has a perception of you. There's a lot of different pockets from your therapy to music, but you have family and friends, clients,
Mm.
colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm somebody who tries to do their best, who tries to be genuine, be real, who's found the courage to be unpopular when necessary. Sometimes I think that's important, not to just toe the line and say, "Oh yeah, I'm going along with this because it's what everyone else is doing." To kind of have integrity and say, yeah, that might be what's right for other people. I've have this conversation with my son regularly about things. It's like, he will say, my friends aren't concerned about safety, or their parents aren't concerned about road safety or internet safety. It's like, no, that's their life. That's nothing to do with us. It's none of my business. But I am, and you're my son, and I'll make sure that you're focused on your own safety and the safety of others, whether you're on the road, on your bike, or on the internet. You're going to behave well, and you're going to have integrity, and be somebody that people can rely on, because that's so important in life, to be reliable.
So if anyone out there wants to hire you, learn more about you,
Mm.
get involved with your
Mm.
music, anything about your world, where's the best place to go?
So, if you're a creative and you're frustrated and feel stuck, like many of us do at times, and maybe even fearful of what to do next, and maybe you're stuck doing things that you don't like doing, and you're waking up feeling not very good every day, there'll be a link to my landing page, AuthenticOnPurposeCoaching.com. It's a free guide you can download, and it's got some great kind of structure for you around daily activities, meditation, body-based practices, physical practices, doing stuff with your hands, doing stuff with your body, singing, making things, anything like that. We all need it. We can't just go and tap on a keyboard all week long, expect to be happy, and then drink bottles of wine or whatever and watch Netflix. That's not what we came here to do. So I think that would be very helpful to anyone. Yeah, and there's also a link to my acoustic bass music, mainly. Satori Vibes is the name of that project. It's been around about 10, 15 years now. Yeah, so yeah, if you'd like to learn more about how to get on purpose, which is a cool phrase at the moment, and be authentic. Get in touch, get on my mailing list. I've got some really cool free products for you to check out, and let's have a conversation. I'm up for talking to people as well.
Excellent. Paul, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your story. I appreciate your time. Best of luck with everything.
Thanks a lot, Joe. It's great. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for inviting me and getting up early to see me.
Oh,
wonderful.
absolutely. This has been wonderful, man. Thank you, Paul.
Great show. Thank you, Joe.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Cheers.
See you again.